Hello, the title of this training presentation is B to the R to the A, which stands for back row attacks. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of this training presentation regarding back row attacks, let's look at some definitions. Let's remember that attacks are actions other than blocks and serves that direct the volleyball towards the opponent's court. Now that takes us into back row attacks, which are attacks. Again, just like regular attacks, they are actions other than blocks and serves that direct the volleyball towards the opponent's court. However, back row attacks are courtesy of a back row player. Now, the most common back row attacks that you generally will see in volleyball contests are one-handed spike attacks, similar to one-handed spike attacks by front row players. However, similar to front row players and front row player attacks, there are other back row attacks, including tips, setovers, and digs. Really quickly, let's look at the locations for the rules that govern attack. For National Federation High School, attacks are governed by Rule 9-5, Article 1B. For NCAA women, attacks can be found in Rule 14.5.1. And for USA volleyball, attacks can be found under Rule 13. This takes us into back row attacks. And here's all the rules that govern back row attacks. For National Federation High School, back row attacks are governed under Rule 9-5, Articles 3 through 6. For NCAA women, they are governed under Rule 14.5.4. And for USA Volleyball, they are governed under Rule 13. We have viewed this slide previously regarding attacks, back row attacks, and types of back row attacks. Now we will take a look at some plays that demonstrate several different types of back row attacks.
Outside that block. Great dig from Hudson.
Battle at the net there. Cook over for Purdue. Granberry with the tip. This time out of the back row. A good play for Tennessee and Erica Lovett.
On the scrappy balls.
There's Colvin. And now Chin. Well handled by Tennessee. Lovett. And now Hudson out of the back row. Terrific job defensively there by Matoso for Tennessee, and it results in a point.
They are not doing well. They are not serve receiving well. They are making the bad errors at bad times.
Jasmine Brooks was the target there for Tennessee. Granberry through the middle. Now an opportunity for Purdue with Chin. Chin once again denied. And it's another point.
Be an offensive weapon for Purdue.
Tennessee a point away from taking a 1-0 lead. And there's Fingal to do it. And Tennessee leading just about the whole way in the first set, has taken it over Purdue.
Such a great set by Hayward.
So now that we have had an opportunity to view videos of different types of back row attacks, let's take a look at intentions with regards to back row attacks. In the following image, we see the back row player is attacking the volleyball via a tip attack. What is her intention? You can notice in this image we've drawn two arrows to help highlight and demonstrate our back row player's intentions with this back row tip attack. Tip attacks normally take advantage of the early blocking action by the defense, and they expose the most vulnerable area of the defense in most cases when defending almost all types of attacks. The attack line, which is also known as the 10-foot line or the 3-meter line. In this particular image, we see the back row player is attacking the volleyball via one-hand spike attack, which is the most common type of attack in volleyball. What is her intention? Let's notice that the volleyball is traveling at a greater velocity before the first potential contact by the defense as compared to this same attack by a front row player closer to the net. So if we can imagine for a second, when we typically see a one-handed spike attack by a front row player in the front zone, we can assume that the ball will not travel as great a distance before potential contact by a blocker on the defense. However, in the case of a back row attack, the ball is going to travel at a greater velocity because potentially it's not going to be contacted as quickly by one of our front row blockers. Thus, this type of back row attack can take advantage of the early blocking action by the defense, and it can expose several vulnerable areas of the defense. The attack line, aka 10-foot line, aka 3-meter line, sidelines, in lines, and gaps between our defensive back row players. In this image, we see the back row setter is attacking the ball via a set over attack. What is her intention? Set over attacks by back row setters can take advantage of potentially no blocking action by the defense, as was the case in this particular play. They can expose the vulnerable area of the defense in most cases when defending attacks, the attack line. They can frustrate defenses who are more concerned about a back row setter attacking the volleyball in the front zone, seemingly assuming that the volleyball is completely above the height of the net. In this particular image, we see the back row player is attacking the volleyball via a dig attack. What is her intention? Typically, the dig attack occurs when the offense is out of system. These dig attacks most likely occur at the third and final allowable hit by the offense. Digs can be useful back row attacks if the speed of the dig attack is such that it exposes vulnerable areas of the defense, or if the defense fails to communicate with one another as to what player will contact the volleyball for their first hit. Let's discuss officiating back row attacks. There are several components which are vital for both the first and second referee to have knowledge when officiating back row attacks. These components are as follows: the status of our players as front row or back row players, the status of our setters as front row or back row setters. In the case of back row players, their attack point of takeoff and potentially ball location in relation to the net. In this particular image, the takeoff point for our back row player is behind the attack line. Thus, ball location does not matter. Thus, there are no limitations for her attacking the volleyball regardless of the ball location. In this particular image, similar to the image we viewed in the previous slide, takeoff point for our back row player is behind the attack line. Thus, the ball location does not matter and there are no limitations for her attacking the volleyball. In this particular image, we have a back row setter performing a set-over attack. In this particular play, the takeoff point for our back row setter is in front of the attack line. Because this is the case, ball location now matters. The volleyball, in this case, cannot be completely above the height of the net for this particular type of attack to be legal. Keep in mind that the libero adds an entire new layer for attacks. By rule, the libero can set the volleyball anywhere on the court using overhead finger action. However, if this type of set by the libero is performed while the libero is behind the attack line, then all normal attacks rules are in effect. If this type of set by the libero is performed while the libero is on or in front of the attack line, then the ball cannot be attacked anywhere if it is completely above the height of the net. For second referees, we have extensively established the four components for officiating back row attacks. But in addition to these four components, you should be prepared to assist your first referee in case your assistance is required. Some of the things that this are not limited to but may include are: is our setter front or back row player? Is the status of the particular player in question a front or back row player? If it is a back row player, where is their takeoff point in relation to the attack line? This includes the use of discrete signals to communicate with your first referee while still performing your normal second referee duties. Thank you for spending part of your day with us. We hope you have gained some valuable insight into back row attacks, not only from the perspective of players and coaches, but from the perspective of officials as well. We hope we've given you some great insight into the rules that govern back row attacks, as well as the different perspectives of back row attacks. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us. Have a great rest of your day, a great week, a great month, a great year.